Hello and welcome back to another video. So, I've been playing through Metroid Other M on the Nintendo Wii. It's my first ever Metroid game, which a lot of you may be thinking, why did you start here? That's purely just down to the random game selection, and I only own 2 Metroid games, so it was kind of a 50-50 toss-up. So by most consensus, this probably isn't the best game to start with, and having no other Metroid games to compare it to, I can't really say, though I'd have to say it was a little bit underwhelming for my first ever Metroid game. I haven't completed the game, which is quite a rarity. Most of the games I play for this series I do actually beat, but this one, it's an okay game, but I just couldn't bring myself to put in the 10-11 hours to actually play all the way through. I feel like I got a really good idea of what the game's about. I played for, I'm not sure exactly how long, but 3.5-4 hours, and find I had a good experience with the game, kind of got to know what the game was really about, and had some good moments with it, but also some very frustrating ones that I almost quit a couple of times sooner than I actually ended up doing. So, in terms of the game, let's start with some of the good points. So, I like the creativity of the game. I like the actual environments you're in, the world you're in, that you end up on a abandoned ship, and I really appreciate how they've kind of brought organic feel, like organic environments into essentially a spaceship, where you would expect it to be quite clinical and cold and kind of architectural. They brought in these organic areas within there, which I think works quite well, and it helps to break up the environments that you're in. You're not sure what's going to be through the next door. And I've played far enough to get to through the first main area of the game into the second section, and the environments completely change up again. There's kind of lava and all kinds of things and fireballs and everything going on, which I didn't expect going into the game, and that's quite a refreshing thing to find as you're going through. The enemy design I think is quite good as well. Having only been not exactly sure how far, but maybe a third through the game, I've already come across loads of enemy variety, and the boss battles have been quite fun as well and engaging when I haven't been getting completely and utterly frustrated by the controls, but we'll come on to that in a bit more detail later. There's a couple of boss battles in there that are quite different to any boss battles I've faced in other games. Not hugely original in terms of the actual gameplay, but just a different feel, and I quite enjoyed them. Before I come on to the other good parts, I think I need to explain the controls, which is one of the major downsides. So for most of the game, well, not most of it, for the default way of playing it when you're running around is to hold the Wii controller sideways and use the D-pad to run around, and the 1 and 2 buttons to kind of shoot and jump. And this works really well. When I first started the game, playing in this mode, I got to grips with it very quickly. It felt good. I was enjoying myself, and I was like, yeah, if the whole game's like this is absolutely fine. Because one of the things I often do when I come to a Wii game is I get worried about how awful the controls are going to be. So at the start I was quite pleasantly surprised, but then pretty soon into it, you have to start going into first person mode to kind of find objects in the world and to fire missiles, which I think is a ridiculous decision, but there you go, it is what it is. So to go into first person mode, you tilt your controller and you hold it as you normally would, and you aim it at the TV, at your sensor bar, and then you'll go into first person mode. And in this mode you can lock onto enemies or objects in the world that you need to lock onto to fire missiles or other things at, to do damage, or to kind of do puzzle solving to unlock doors and things. So this, on the face of it, appears okay, and it's a way of using the technology of the Wii to mix things up. And it's fine in the environmental situations where you're not under attack or anything, but when it comes to boss battles, it was so incredibly frustrating. Because I don't know if it's just my Wii or my sensor bar, but it got better as I got used to it, knowing exactly where to point. But sometimes I'd be in a battle, and I'd kind of be like, right, I'm at a point now where either the enemy's kind of taking a breather or something, or I've done what I need to do in terms of damage to open up a weak spot. I need to get into my missile phase. So I'd point the Wii controller at the TV, wanting to be immediately into missile fire, to fire it off and then get moving again, and it would take me a good kind of 2 seconds, 3 seconds, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're in a boss battle is an age, to actually get it to actually come up on the bloody screen, and then another kind of couple of seconds to actually get it to lock on. And a lot of the time by this stage the boss is starting attacking me again and I'm getting damaged, and it's just so infuriating. It's so slow, it takes you out of that momentum you've built up during a boss battle, dodging the attacks and firing, and you just have to stop effectively, like literally just stop in place and take a good 5 seconds to actually try and lock on and do anything. You can't do it while you're on the move. So this is my biggest down draw of the game, which is a big one because it's the gameplay itself. I can forgive a lot of other things when I'm playing through a game if the core gameplay is really good, but this, like, there was some bosses that on the face of it are ridiculously easy. They should have been easy, and I took like 10 attempts purely because I was just battling with the controls, not for any other reason than the controls. So that's the major downside of the game for me. As I said, the controls when you're in the running around mode and when you turn into the ball are all, I think, really playable, really well done. More positives of the game are, I think, the actual kind of particle effects and everything when you're firing and doing things. Explosions all look really good. It runs relatively smoothly for the technology of the Wii console. I didn't have any issues with that at all. There weren't any glitches or bugs or anything like that, or crashes. Ran really well for the technology that it's on. So it's only running in kind of 480p or something pathetic, but it ran smoothly, which is the important thing. And some of the platforming in the game is quite fun as well. So there's quite a few points in the game where you have to either just straight up platforming, jumping from platform to platform, or you have to jump from ledge to ledge while taking out enemies and doing different things, and find secret passages and things, as you would expect, being a Metroid game, where you can kind of turn into your morph ball and kind of roll through passages and things to either just to progress to the next area or to find collectibles and things. So all of that was really good. Another gameplay aspect, which in some instances was quite good, but on the whole probably could be improved quite a bit, is the camera. So a lot of the time when you're running around it works really well. You don't have any control over the camera. It moves with you, but it's kind of fixed. So a lot of the environments you're exploring, this works quite well, and obviously the developers can kind of frame the camera shots and things they want, which is quite good to kind of guide you through the areas you're going through. But it also has its drawbacks, and as you can imagine, if the camera's fixed, if you're fighting in a big room, you'll have enemies quite often in the foreground that you can't see because they're under the camera, and you have no idea kind of when they're going to attack, or if they're charging up for an attack, or even at times if there's enemies there at all. Quite often I'd think I had all the enemies in front of me and one would jump from behind me from off camera. I didn't have a clue that they were coming. So the camera isn't the best either, but again forgivable if it didn't have the other issues with kind of going into the first person mode. And speaking of first person mode, coming back to that, so there are moments in the game where the camera switches to kind of not a first person, but like a third person over the shoulder view when you're in kind of safe environments where you're not going to be in combat, kind of exploring different rooms, looking for clues or kind of story beats that are going on. And this is all very well and good, but I don't know why, but for some reason they've slowed down your movement to such a snail's pace that it becomes quite a drag very, very quickly. And I'm assuming they do this to make sure that you don't miss kind of anything that you're supposed to be seeing, but often in these instances there's not really much to look at anyway. It's normally just kind of plain, like relatively plain rooms where it's quite obvious what you're supposed to be looking at. And there is quite a lot of story in this game, so they have a kind of full story beat going through with cutscenes and characters that you're introduced to, with kind of voice acting and everything, and it's all reasonably well done. I did look at a couple of reviews before I started the game, and a lot of people were getting really annoyed with A, the length of the cutscenes, and B, Samus's kind of narration of the cutscenes. So sometimes she'll speak to other characters, but then a lot of the time she'll just be kind of narrating and speaking her internal thoughts. So I didn't mind this too much, but again, because I've only played kind of 3.5, 4 hours of the game, it may be that if I played for another 6 hours that would start to grate. But again, it's one of those things that didn't put me off the game. The main thing that's put me off the game is the gameplay, primarily that switching to first-person mode to fire rockets that you have to do constantly in combat situations, and I've just got far too many other games to play to kind of force myself through this game just to tick a box for completion. So yeah, that was my first entry into a Metroid game. Would I recommend it? I mean, well, no. You can probably tell by what I've just been saying that I wouldn't recommend it, unless A, you're someone that's played a lot of Wii games and you're used to kind of dealing with the sensor and thing on a regular basis, and you don't think that's going to bother you too much and you think you get by. Or B, you're a major Metroid fan and this is one of the games that you haven't played yet. And both those instances I'd say, yes, why not, give it a go. So if anyone's played this game, let me know what you think in the comments. Did you manage to make your way through the game? What did you think of the controls? Did they bother you that much? Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed the video, please consider dropping a like, and I hope everyone has a great day. Now on to the next one.